I signed up for a 400 senior citizens tour and somehow got snatched up by a rich lady to be her daughter-in-law. And the guy I'm supposed to marry? Turns out he's the high school crush I never got over. If I don't make a move now, am I even human? But he doesn't seem into me. Just when I decided to give up, he cornered me in a booth, his voice low and raspy. "Babe, is it me? Is my kiss not soft enough for you?" Ever since my parents passed, I hadn't traveled anywhere. I spent $400 on a group tour for retirees, only to realize I was the poorest one there. Even the bargain-hunting grannies owned fancy villas downtown. But being the youngest girl in the group didn't mean I got bossed around, quite the opposite. They were lining up to set me up with their sons. Sometimes, being pretty really pays off. One aunt with a sky-high perm grabbed my hand, beaming. "We have 3 condos downtown. My daughter-in-law can pick whichever one she wants." Then a grandpa with a gold Buddha pendant shoved her aside and declared, "My grandson runs his own company, pulls in $1 million a year." Oh wow, both sound amazing. I'm just one step away from living the dream. From the corner, a classy lady chimed in out of nowhere. "My son's got an 8-pack, only comes home twice a year, gives his wife $1 million a month, and doesn't pressure her to have kids. Plus, you can do spa days with me." I pinched my thigh, suspicious. Ouch, super ouch. But pain meant this was real. I dove over and sat beside her. "Mom, so when do my husband and I get married?" I thought she was joking, but her face lit up and she grabbed my hand, shouting to the driver, "Stop the car. We've got good news, this trip's over." That same day, I rode home in her fully loaded Rolls-Royce. But once we arrived, I just stared at her son's face, speechless. I never dreamed the guy I was marrying would be Luke Dawson. He was my secret crush all through high school, the light I never told anyone about. Luke's mom pulled me up to him, beaming. "Here's your bride, Jennifer. Isn't she gorgeous? And she went to your school, too." By the time we arrived, she'd already done a full background check on me. She even knew we were schoolmates. But Luke didn't remember me at all. He leaned back on the couch with a file in hand, lifting his eyes lazily. "Sure, whatever you decide." Was he saying I looked nice, or that being from his school was nice? Either way, I was thrilled. At dinner, his mom and I chatted non-stop while Luke sat there like none of this involved him. I thought for sure he'd reject the marriage idea, but to my shock, he agreed right away. Could it be he was actually tempted by my looks? Didn't seem likely. Back in high school, even with all the beautiful girls chasing him, he never dated anyone. As we ate, Luke's mom said, "You two are going to the civil office first thing tomorrow. Then go tell your grandparents about the wedding." I gave a polite smile but stayed quiet. This wasn't my decision to make. Luke's chopsticks paused midair, then he nodded. Just then, the maid brought out a spicy beef dish and set it by his hand. I instinctively swapped it for the egg custard in front of me and froze the second I did it. "Crap!" Luke's mom blinked in surprise. "Jennifer, how did you know Luke doesn't eat spicy food? You two really are a match." Luke gave me a curious look, a little too intense. How do I explain that I knew all about his food preferences in high school? I used to sneak into his lunch line just to watch him eat, and not once did he touch anything spicy. My brain went into overdrive. I blurted, "I just noticed he wasn't eating the spicy stuff, so I guessed." Thankfully, neither of them pressed further, and the conversation moved on. The next morning, I waited early at the Civil Affairs Bureau. At 9 sharp, Luke arrived in a white shirt, cool and distant like moonlight. 8 years later, he still hit every one of my aesthetic buttons. I was completely smitten. There weren't many couples registering that day, so we got our marriage certificate quickly. I could hardly believe it. I was really married to Luke. He's legally my husband now. He noticed me zoning out, snapped his fingers in front of me, and said, "Let's go." I snapped back to reality and followed him instinctively, blurting out, "Okay, hubby." Luke's lips curved into a slight smile. He glanced down and teased, "You adjusted fast." Embarrassed, I tucked my hair behind my ear, my heart pounding. As cars sped past, he pulled me toward the sidewalk, shielding me from traffic. A breeze passed by, carrying the same cool, woody scent I remembered from before. Luke's grandparents lived out in the suburbs. By the time we arrived, it was afternoon. They were warm and welcoming, chatting with me for hours. Grandma even took me to Luke's childhood bedroom, which was packed with airplane models. These were all his treasures. He wanted to be a pilot, but his mom didn't approve. She even smashed his favorite one. I gently touched the models, almost seeing little Luke hunched over his desk, carefully gluing parts together. He must have looked so cool. Grandma, when we leave tomorrow, can you sneak me that broken model? I want to see if I can fix it. Of course. I'll hide it under the cured meat, no one'll notice. Just then, Luke pushed the door open and leaned on the frame, watching me with amusement. What's got you two talking so excitedly? Dinner's ready. He seemed more relaxed here, chattier too. Grandma and I shared a smile but didn't say anything. We stayed the night it wasn't safe to drive after dark. The house had only 2 bedrooms, so under Grandma's watchful eye, Luke and I had to share. The thought made my heart race a little. When I came out from washing up, he was still in bed working on his laptop, wearing gold-rimmed glasses that gave off major husband vibes. The way he focused nearly killed me. Without thinking, I decided to be bold. I gently lifted the covers on my side. He didn't react, so I scooted closer, accidentally brushing his ankle. I let my foot linger, nudging up a bit. Luke glanced at me, his Adam's apple bobbing slightly. His lips pressed into a line as he closed the laptop. I pulled the blanket up to my nose, peeking out at him, blinking. Was this it? Was something going to happen? He turned to look at me and said lazily, "You got a cramp or something? Is it too late to flee?" Ugh, I wanted to die. Dumb, clueless man. I quickly pulled my foot back and muttered, "Just cold." Wanted some warmth. He didn't respond. A moment later, I heard him get out of bed. Was he going to sleep in another room? My heart sank. Did he really hate being near me that much? While I was still spiraling, the door creaked open again. He came back with a hot water bottle and placed it near my feet. No one stayed in this room for ages. The heater's busted. Make do for now. Even though I didn't get what I wanted, why did I still feel kind of happy? Once my feet warmed up, I rubbed them against his again and put on an innocent face. Warm enough? Let me borrow some of that heat. Luke fell silent for a few seconds, then shot me a cold look. Jennifer, don't push your luck. We need to talk. I agreed to this marriage, but you know we don't have feelings for each other. That made sense, we barely knew each other, after all. But it still stung. My nose tingled and my eyes turned red. I quietly scooted to the edge of the bed, trying not to touch him. Then he said, "But we can try. I'll do my best to be a good husband." My dimmed gaze lit up instantly, and I couldn't stop staring at him. Luke looked uncomfortable and covered my eyes with his hand. Go to sleep. Not long after we got home, he left on a business trip abroad that would last 3 to 4 months. Just like his mom said, he only came home twice a year. As he was about to leave, I stood at the doorway and asked hopefully, "Will you be back for New Year's?" It was his birthday, and I wanted to spend it with him. By then, the broken airplane model should be fixed. I wanted to give it to him as a gift. Luke signaled his assistant to take his luggage out, then turned to me. "Not sure, is it something important?" I didn't want to spoil the surprise, so I wrapped my arms around his waist and grinned. "I'll miss you." Luke gently pushed my forehead with a helpless expression. He still wasn't used to me being so close. That's okay, it would take time. After he left, I got to work fixing the broken model. It was harder than I thought. Just finding the parts took over half a month, not to mention starting from scratch. I had the owner of a model shop teach me little by little. My hands were constantly getting pricked and bleeding. The shop owner saw how clumsy I was, but still so determined, and couldn't help but ask, "You making this for your boyfriend? Wouldn't it be easier to just buy a new one?" I smiled softly, dimples showing. "It's for my husband. A handmade one's better than store-bought." Halfway through the restoration, I couldn't stand it anymore. I missed Luke like crazy. "When are you coming back? I kind of miss you." Most of my messages got no response. I felt so alone. After 10 days, I couldn't take it. I bought a plane ticket and flew out to find him. Everything felt urgent. In a foreign country where I barely spoke the language, at least I'd changed into a decent outfit, so I didn't look totally out of place in a building full of elites. Just as I was about to step into the elevator at Dawson Corp., a hand stopped me. "Miss, who are you here to see?" "President Luke. Sorry, you need an appointment." I sat down in the waiting area, confused, and tried calling Luke. He didn't answer, so I texted instead. I didn't know how long I waited, just that waves of foreigners came and went. I eventually slumped into the chair, half asleep. Just as I was dozing off, I felt a shadow fall over me. I looked up, and there was Luke in a black suit. calm and composed. I reached out to him and mumbled, "Honey, hug me." Luke pulled me up and said coolly, "Talk properly." "Why are you here? I'm still working. Come with me to the office." Back in his office, he dove right back into work, completely ignoring me. I felt a little sulky, but at least he was nice to look at. He'd taken off his tie, the top buttons of his shirt undone, just enough to show his collarbone. Ahem. "I'll be done soon. You can nap a bit, or I'll order you food," Luke said suddenly, buttoning up like it was nothing. He was seriously stingy, even that tiny bit of eye candy got taken away. "I want to eat out with you later." "I'll nap a bit, don't forget to wake me." I was actually tired. The jet lag was no joke. I didn't know how long I slept until I heard Luke calling, "Jennifer, wake up." I clung to the sofa, refusing to open my eyes, secretly hoping he'd do something to me. But to my surprise, he left, closed the door, and everything. Damn! A few seconds later, he came back with a small blanket, wrapped me up, and carried me bridal style. That cool, woody scent flooded my senses. His hand supported my waist, firm and strong. I instinctively snuggled into his neck, my breath warm against his skin. Thank God no one else was around the office, otherwise I'd be so embarrassed. Just as we reached the elevator, I heard a woman's voice. "President Luke? Still here? And this is?" I peeked with one eye and saw Kristen. She was wearing a black strapless gown that showed off her flawless collarbone, her wavy hair falling over her shoulders, stunning as ever. My internal alarm went off instantly. She was the only girl in high school who could actually stand beside Luke. Her name was on every award list, and she'd appeared in school papers next to him. She was also my classmate. I clenched my hand under the blanket, a wave of unease hitting me. She probably wouldn't recognize me. I looked pretty different now. Luke tightened his grip and pressed my face against his chest. "This is my wife. She's asleep. We'll head out first." In the elevator, I peeked up at him, only to catch his gaze directly. Not faking it anymore? I felt awkward at being exposed and tried to wriggle free, but he stopped me. "Just stay put. We'll be in the garage soon. It's a bit dark down there." The underground garage really was dark and mostly empty. I had a wicked idea, grabbed his collar, pulled myself up, and kissed him. Luke stiffened, his arms tightening. His breathing turned ragged. What started as my move quickly turned into him taking control, my mind spinning. Suddenly, a car horn blared behind us and scared me half to death. I buried my face in his neck, panting. Luke chuckled at how jumpy I was and placed me in the passenger seat. "Weren't you all bold just now? What happened?" "I'm just a paper tiger, only tough when no one's looking." I glared at him and told him to drive. Luke didn't take me to a restaurant. Instead, he brought me home and cooked himself. I didn't expect a guy who looked so pampered to actually be a great cook. At dinner, I was the only one chatting nonstop. He chimed in occasionally. After I finished eating, I cautiously asked, "Who was that girl earlier? She looked kind of familiar." Luke frowned slightly. "She's a celebrity we hired for promotion. You know her?" I shook my head quickly. I didn't want him to know I recognized Kristen or that I used to have a huge crush on him. Luke picked up a napkin to wipe his mouth, then leaned back in his chair, casual yet handsome. "When are you heading back?" I pouted, glaring at him. "Eager to get rid of me? You hiding some other woman or what?" "I'm busy. I don't have time to keep you company. I wasn't planning on staying long anyway. I had to leave the next day. He had his own responsibilities, and I had my work. Even though I had more flexibility, I still had several long-form pieces due by year's end. I just came to see you. That's all. You didn't need to." I clenched the tissue in my hand. It felt like ants were crawling inside my chest, itchy, but not painful, just empty and unreal. Everything I did didn't seem to stir anything in him. From the moment I saw him again, he never once showed any clear sign of happiness. I had been the one initiating everything. Honestly, I was exhausted. I barely said another word to him the whole night. Right before boarding my flight, I sent one last message. "Please come home for New Year's." "I'll try." On Luke's birthday, I got up early and placed the restored airplane model in a beautiful gift box. I decorated the house to look romantic and cozy, then went grocery shopping and made a full steak dinner. I even burned blisters on my fingers. I waited all afternoon, only to get a short message from him. Something came up. "Can't make it. Don't wait." I stared blankly at the screen. I wanted to ask him why, but couldn't think of a reason. I shut off my phone and laid it face down on the table. He'd never promised he would come. It had always been me hoping. Suddenly, the door opened. I looked up and saw Luke's mom. She was holding the photo album I'd asked her to deliver. She looked around the decorated living room and instantly understood. "Jennifer, are you all right?" The moment someone tries to comfort you, all your bottled-up emotions burst out. My eyes welled up, then blurred, until I finally broke down in tears. "Don't cry, sweetheart. That brat Luke didn't come home? I'll call him right now." No. It didn't matter anymore if he came back. Luke's mom rushed over to wipe my tears, but the more she wiped, the harder I cried. Eventually she gave up and just pulled me into a hug, patting my back. "I'm sorry, sweetheart. When that brat gets back, I'll give him hell." I shook my head, suddenly at a loss for words. I thought this reunion and marriage meant the light of my old crush was finally shining on me, but it was all a mess again. This relationship was never really his choice. Maybe he went along with it just to placate his mom, or maybe he just didn't want to reject me outright. Either way, it didn't matter anymore. I took down all the decorations and tossed the gift box into a random corner, planning to throw it away the next day. That night, I didn't sleep in the master bedroom. I found a guest room instead. This room was closer to the living room. Half asleep, I heard voices arguing. I got out of bed, quietly opened the door, and stood behind a cabinet. Luke's mom was video calling someone Luke. She tried to keep her voice low, but I could still hear her scolding him. "You're really so busy? Too busy to come home? To care about your wife?" I told her not to wait for me. That sentence pushed Luke's mom over the edge. Her voice rose. "What do you mean, don't wait? Do you have any idea Jennifer was waiting to celebrate your birthday? She even bought you a gift." Luke said nothing, but he didn't hang up either. He just listened. Luke's mom was nearly choking on her words, unable to understand why her son was being so cold. "Luke, do you really hate the marriage I arranged for you that much?" "Yes, even though it's Jennifer? Yes." Then came a long silence. I stood frozen, trying to swallow the ache in my chest, but no matter how deeply I breathed, it still hurt. Hearing movement from the living room, I panicked and ran back to my room, terrified that even the last shred of my pride had been laid bare. Once inside, I collapsed against the door and slowly slid to the floor. After that day, Luke came back not long after and brought me tons of gifts, but I never opened a single one. They sat in the storage room with the airplane model. I stopped chasing after him. Instead, I threw myself into work, flipping my schedule upside down, trying to save up for a down payment on a place of my own. Is that role not working? Okay, I'll revise it right away. Just mark what's not working. I'll try to send you the final draft by Friday. As for the spending money Luke gave me, I never touched a cent. I planned to return it all when we divorced. The house had become cold and silent. Neither of us made a move to break the ice. But work went well. I sold the rights to one of my scripts and even got invited to join as a screenwriter. My wallet finally started to fill up. I rushed to book a house viewing. "Sorry, Miss Jennifer, the unit you liked earlier was already purchased. Want to see something else? I've got a few other listings with great lighting. I think you'll like them." That house had been my favorite for a long time, but I couldn't afford it back then. Now that it was gone, there was nothing I could do. I sighed. "All right, show me the others." He had a good number of listings. The one he took me to was right next to the original unit, similar layout and lighting. "Is this a marital home, Miss Jennifer?" I made something up on the spot. "Nope, kicked out after a divorce." What I didn't expect was for Luke to show up out of nowhere. "You're buying a house?" My heart skipped a beat. Wasn't he supposed to be in a meeting? "Oh, Mr. Luke, what a surprise. I was just about to bring you the contract this afternoon. Miss Jennifer, the unit you liked earlier was bought by this gentleman. He said it was a peace offering for his wife." "For me?" The agent, completely missing the awkward tension, cheerfully added, "Her husband was awful, kicked her out after the divorce. I mean, look at her. How could someone do that to a woman this beautiful? Girl, please." The awful husband is standing right there. Luke raised an eyebrow, his expression darkening. "Divorce?" That's news to me. The agent's face cracked and she quietly slipped out, even closing the door behind her. "Well, now you know. Let's set a time and finalize the divorce. I paid for this place myself, so you don't have to worry. The money you gave me is still here. I didn't spend a cent." I pulled out the card he'd given me. It had 5 million on it. Luke didn't take it. He just stood there, stunned, his expression unreadable. What do you mean? I looked straight at him and repeated, "Let's get divorced." Luke clenched his fists unconsciously, his knuckles turning white. His voice dropped low, hoarse in my ear. "You're mad about that day? I didn't know you planned a birthday surprise. I had an important contract to sign. I couldn't make it back in time. I can apologize. How about I give you the house you liked as a peace offering? None of it mattered anymore. I loved money, sure, but not to the point of wanting everything." I shrugged nonchalantly. "No need. Save it for your future wife." I shoved the card into his hand and walked out before he could react. Just the thought of Luke marrying someone else made my heart twist painfully. After I got home, I realized the house would still take a while to renovate, so I needed to rent a place first. I spread over a dozen rental listings across the coffee table and started comparing them one by one. Just then, Luke pushed open the door and came straight toward me. He glanced down at the table, slightly out of breath. "Jennifer, you're moving out before I even agreed to it?" I looked up at him. His normally pristine suit was wrinkled, and his tie sat crooked, completely different from his usual self. I couldn't figure him out. My brow furrowed. "Mr. Dawson, you've never been satisfied with this marriage. What's the drama now?" Luke's face was tight, his expression stubborn. "We need to talk about this. You need to calm down. You're the daughter-in-law my mom chose, and I owe her an explanation. She's still in Europe. Until she comes back, I won't agree to a divorce." With that, he didn't give me a chance to respond. He just grabbed all the documents off the table. I could faintly hear the sound of paper being torn to shreds. Since Luke came back, I stopped working in the study and moved my computer to the living room. That night, I worked late on a script. When I finally went to get some water, I slipped on the floor near the water dispenser and hit the ground hard. The impact echoed through the house. I tried to get up, but the sharp pain drained all my strength, making me gasp. Seconds later, Luke came running downstairs and saw me on the floor. He scooped me up and set me on the sofa. He was always calm, but now he looked tense, serious, even. "I'm going to grab your clothes. We're going to the hospital." I quickly grabbed his arm. It was late. I didn't want the hassle. "No need. It's nothing serious. Go to sleep." Maybe I was too indifferent, because Luke actually looked a little hurt. "Do you really not want to see me now? You weren't like this overseas." I tilted my head to look at him, my tone full of bitter sarcasm. "Mr. Dawson, you're unhappy with this relationship and with me, Jennifer. Isn't my attitude perfectly appropriate?" I paused, then added, "Or have you fallen for me?" Luke froze, mouth slightly open, but said nothing. I let out a bitter laugh. The ache in my heart had turned into a vast ocean, and my eyes, nose, even my lips tasted bitter. I limped around him, trying to return to my room alone, but he pulled me into his arms. I tried to struggle free, but his grip on my waist was like iron. Then his other hand smacked my butt firm, but not rough. "Stop squirming." Embarrassed and angry, my eyes turned red. "Luke, you're being ridiculous. What are you, a perv?" Luke lowered his gaze and said seriously, "I can be worse. I could pick up where we left off overseas." What the hell? Was he even hearing himself? I gave up and shut my eyes. He carried me back to the bedroom and iced my ankle. As the screenwriter of the new film Alley Life, I needed to be on set to revise the script at any time. Once my foot healed, I packed my bags late into the night. Just as I zipped the suitcase shut, there was a knock at the door. I opened it to find Luke in pajamas, his hair still damp and annoyingly perfect. He walked past me, eyes locked on the suitcase. "Where are you going?" "None of your business." I rolled my eyes and slammed the door behind him. Peace at last. But when I arrived on set, I saw Kristen. She was the female lead in Alley Life. The director's team had done a great job keeping that secret there, hadn't been a single leak. Kristen played a struggling woman from a narrow alley with a drunk husband and ungrateful son. In the end, she overcame it all and found herself. Her acting was decent, and she really fit the role, resilient and brave. When the director asked if her performance met my expectations, I nodded and didn't say much. In this kind of environment, caution was best. When Kristen wasn't filming, she sat wrapped in a padded coat, staring at me. "Are you Jennifer?" I buried my face into my puffy collar. Could I deny it? She lit up and ran over. It really is you. You've changed so much I didn't recognize you at all. I forced a smile. Well, you clearly recognize me now. At that moment, the male lead Tony finished his scene and strolled over, hands in his pockets. You two know each other? Because we had to stay quiet on set, we stood close while speaking. Tony, whether intentionally or not, rested his arm on the rack behind me, effectively boxing me in. I tried to scoot away, but Kristen stood right beside me, making it impossible. I was caught in the middle. Suddenly, a commotion broke out on set. I looked up and saw Luke, dressed sharp as ever. What was he doing here? His eyes locked on me immediately, his brow twitching ever so slightly. For some reason, I felt like I'd been caught cheating. Uncomfortable, I looked down and rubbed my nose. But then I thought, what did I do wrong? I straightened my back and stared right at him. The director approached with a smile plastered on his face. President Luke, what brings you here today? Everyone, gather around. This is our investor, Luke. The whole crew broke into applause. Kristen, you know President Luke, right? Show him around the set. The director said it loudly enough for everyone to hear. Paired with Kristen's bashful expression, the implication was crystal clear. But Luke remained cold and distant, declining politely. No need, I'm here all the time. She can show me around. Kristen froze on the spot. I stiffened too, wanting nothing more than to vanish from this mess. The director hadn't expected such a bombshell and joked, President Luke, married so young? Your wife's part of the crew? Luke's gaze turned dark and he tilted his chin slightly at me. Jennifer, aren't you coming? With everyone staring, I had no choice but to walk over. The entire crew was staying at the same hotel. The director even handed Luke my room key. When the door opened, I thought I had the wrong room. It was dim inside. Luke stood there in a black shirt, his tie tossed carelessly to the floor. The top button was undone, revealing a long neck and a sharp, alluring Adam's apple. I swallowed instinctively, tossed my bag on the table, and pointed toward the door under his scorching gaze. You get out! Find your own room! Luke didn't budge, just stared straight at me. Fine. You won't leave, then I will. I opened the door only to see Tony standing there, about to knock. Oh hey, where are you going? Midnight snack? I didn't like this guy. He was too flirty, gave me the creeps. No, I hadn't even finished rejecting him when Luke pulled me into his arms. My wife isn't going anywhere. Tony, clearly intimidated by Luke's presence, took a step back. His eyes drifted down, and his expression turned knowing. Well then, President Luke and Miss Jennifer, have a nice day. What kind of nonsense was that? I looked up in confusion and noticed Luke had undone another button on his shirt. There was a red mark on his collarbone. It didn't look innocent. When did that even happen? What a schemer! I had nothing to say. I broke free of his hold and returned to the room, grabbed a blanket from the closet, and threw myself onto the couch, turning away from him as I muttered, You take the bed, I'll take the couch. Let's stay out of each other's way. You're going home tomorrow anyway. Just when I thought Luke had given up, he suddenly scooped me up and tossed me onto the bed. I tried to get up, but he pinned me down easily with one arm across my chest. He could lock me in place with barely any effort. I was startled and stammered, Don't try anything, we're on a film set. Luke bit the soft skin of my neck, not too hard, then looked up at me. Jennifer, can we make up? I saw the airplane model you made, it's in the bedroom now. What I said to my mom that day, I didn't mean it. I just didn't want her planning everything for me again. She's done that since I was a kid, even when I was applying to college. So that's why he'd said, You decide, the night before the wedding. I looked away from his eyes, staring at the ceiling. My tone was calm. No. Keep the plane if you like it, I don't care. The time for explanations had passed. I didn't want to hear any of it anymore. Luke's body went rigid. There was a flicker of mist in his eyes. But you do like me. Otherwise, you wouldn't have come looking for me. You wouldn't have kissed me. If it weren't you, it would have been someone else. I knew I was just being stubborn. If it were anyone else, I never would have agreed to the marriage. But in front of him, I refused to lower myself. Luke crawled under the blanket and pulled me into his arms. My back was pressed tightly against his chest. I don't want to hear anymore. Just sleep. I curled up and didn't dare move. It wasn't until dawn that I finally drifted off. The filming of the movie continued smoothly until I suddenly got a script revision notice. Miss Jennifer, here's the thing. The crew would like you to change the ungrateful son to a daughter and turn the alcoholic father into someone who exits the story due to circumstances beyond his control. That way, the visual impact will be stronger and the conflict with the mother deeper. Me? I absolutely didn't agree with these changes. The characters were designed the way they were for a reason, and this part of the story was based on real events from someone I know. I couldn't betray the trust of the person who gave me their story. When I rushed to set, the director had already started filming with a little girl. A role that was originally a boy had suddenly changed, and now the details didn't match at all. Director, I haven't signed off on any character changes. He looked annoyed but held back, probably because I was still Luke's wife. Little Jennifer, it's fine. No one cares about the character's gender. As long as the core direction is intact, it's all good. His words made my blood boil. My fists clenched under my sleeves, but the core direction is exactly what's wrong. I don't want any gender changes. If something's meant to happen to a son, then let it happen to a son. Why would a daughter necessarily create more drama with her mother? If you insist on restoring the original characters, I will revoke the rights even if it means breaching the contract. I'll accept the consequences. The director, clearly infuriated, slammed the script onto the monitor. Who do you think you are, Jennifer? We brought you on as a courtesy. If you weren't Luke's wife, you'd already be out of here. I bit my lip hard. I felt rage shoot up to the top of my head. Don't push me too far. Just then, someone stepped up beside me, took my hand, and gripped it tightly. Who are you trying to throw out? Luke tightened his grip on my hand and glared coldly at the director. He spoke slowly, word by word. My wife wrote this film. The story is based on true events and real emotions. We brought in a crew to recreate the heart and soul of it, not to distort or twist it under the guise of artistic license. If you think this film is your ticket to an award, you're mistaken. Also, you can leave. I'll find someone else to take over this project. In that moment, it felt like I was back in high school, when he'd stood up for me. I used to be small and frail, and my vision was so bad I looked perpetually out of it. Boys at school liked to tease me, sometimes going as far as making crude jokes right in front of me. One day, I was cornered in the classroom by a group of boys. They poked my chest with broom handles. Why so flat? Drink more milk. What color are you wearing today? Let us see. My face turned bright red. I tried to run, but they wouldn't let me. They shoved me and tried to pull down my straps. Just when I thought it was over, they were suddenly thrown to the side, as if hit by a force. I was stunned. When I looked up, I saw a tall figure standing in front of me. Get lost! The boys got up from the floor, sneering. Well, look who's playing hero. This chick your girlfriend? Doesn't look like it. She's not in your league. I was breathing hard, chest rising and falling. I grabbed a broom, ready to swing if they tried again. The boy who saved me kicked a desk over in front of them and snapped coldly, "Whether she's in my league is none of your business. And show some respect. I won't mind making sure the whole school hears about what you did." At the time, I didn't even know it was Luke. I was just grateful someone had stepped in. After the bullies left, he took off his jacket and handed it to me. Put it on, you don't have to give it back. From that moment on, I started watching him from freshman to senior year, but I never had the courage to approach. After the college entrance exam, I finally decided to write him a letter, only to learn he hadn't taken the exam. He'd gone abroad to study. Maybe he'd never come back. The memory was suddenly broken by Kristen walking over. Hey, Jennifer. She stopped in front of me. Before today, I didn't like you. And after finding out you were Luke's wife, I liked you even less. That day in the office, the woman he was carrying, that was you, wasn't it? I met him first, and yet you got the prize. I never expected the cowardly girl from high school to be so gutsy today. My body trembled. I looked at her in a panic, silently begging her to stop. Kristen raised an eyebrow and widened her eyes dramatically. No way Luke doesn't know you had a crush on him in high school. She found out by accident after the college entrance exams. A guy from another school asked me to deliver a love letter to her, but by mistake, I sent my own. I even signed it in big, fancy letters. There was no hiding it. On the day we came back for graduation, Kristen swaggered over and sat next to me. Didn't expect you liked Luke too. Well, he's gone overseas, so neither of us stands a chance. I made up an excuse to pee and ran off. I wasn't about to talk about that kind of thing in public. Luke lowered his eyes, clearly intrigued and wanting to know more, but I cut him off. I'm starving. We're going to eat now. Bye. I dragged him outside. The sound of traffic snapped me back to reality. I tried to let go of his hand, but Luke held on tight and forced me to look up at him. Jennifer, you like me. The shame hit me all at once. My nose stung and I blinked hard. That was in the past. I don't like you anymore. Luke crouched down to meet my eyes, a faint sparkle in his gaze. But I like you. I really, really like you. Liar? He'd clearly been unhappy about our marriage before. No matter how much I reached out, he never responded. How could he suddenly claim to like me? Luke never lies. I know I hurt you before. Give me a chance to make it right, okay? My heart softened, especially after everything that had just happened, but I still had to play it cool. I shook off his hand and walked ahead. Whatever. After that, Kristen and I actually became good friends. She'd drag me out every now and then. Star Bar tonight, your favorite celeb's there. I changed into a modern-style black chapeau, short enough to show my long legs. My hair was loosely pinned up, giving me a lazy yet sultry vibe. As soon as I stepped out of the bedroom, I saw Luke staring at me, his gaze darkening. Where are you going? Crap, I forgot he was still home. I avoided his eyes and stammered, I'm, going to a meeting. Don't block the door. Luke was still in observation mode. We hadn't officially reconciled, so my attitude toward him was naturally prickly. He stepped in close, his jaw nearly brushing the top of my head. He lowered his face until we were practically nose to nose, and I caught a whiff of the same scent I was wearing. You're not going. But I'd already done my makeup. There was no way I wasn't stepping out tonight. I leaned up and kissed the corner of his mouth. Still felt just as good. While he froze, I darted to the door and slipped out like a fugitive. When Kristen saw me, she gave me a teasing look. Whoa, looking hot tonight. Luke actually let you leave the house? I looked down at my outfit. In my rush, I'd left one of the frog buttons undone, exposing the red mole at the base of my collarbone. Don't talk nonsense. Where's the celebrity I like? I need a picture this time. Kristen tilted her head toward the corner. I turned and saw that celeb locked in a passionate kiss with a model. A hard pass. Suddenly a hand covered my eyes. A voice whispered in my ear, Babe, is it my kiss that's too weak? Or have I not kissed you enough? It felt like I'd been struck by lightning. I was speechless. How did Luke even find me here? And had he gone mad saying something that embarrassing? I looked over at Kristen through gritted teeth, but that traitor had already scurried far away, palms pressed together as she mouthed silently. Your husband threatened me with a contract. I had no choice. Unbelievable. Luke sat beside me the whole night, which made it impossible to get a photo with anyone. When we left the bar, he trailed behind like a big abandoned wolf dog. I looked back, a little guilty. Lately, Luke had changed a lot. He'd started sharing little stories with me, updating me on his plans, and even slipping in sweet talk now and then. I usually acted indifferent, but he never gave up. Like now, he looked pitiful. But the moment I turned around, his eyes lit up. I curved my eyes into a smile and teased. Wanna hold my hand? Yes. Back home, Luke pulled me into his arms. Mrs. Dawson, does this mean I've been officially promoted? I rested my hands on his chest and raised an eyebrow. Barely passed. Someone was clearly getting bolder. He started undoing the buttons on my queue-pow, and my neatly pinned-up hair fell loose behind me. Jennifer, I love you. With that, he kissed me right where we were.